It's happened. You're supposed to be trading spaces with your Gen X and millennial children who are living in the city. But they didn't want to leave either. So what's interesting is what we've had is we've had the rise of the silver tsunami, which is right now the large number of retirements of the baby boomer era. And it's occurring inside America's suburbs. And transportation systems have to adjust and change to reflect that. So part of the Senior Summit is to A, recognize a lot of the different organizations that support senior services and programs, but also the recognition that transportation is mobility. Mobility might be a car, mobility might be a volunteer service, it might be a mass transit agency. So with that, we do want to keep things on time. We have a speaker, but we're going to focus early on safety and security. I'll turn it over to Joe Stainsby, our Chief Development Officer. He's got a British accent, so hopefully you can translate.
All right, yeah, I do. Hold it again. Thanks, Bob. All right, morning, guys. We have a few great sessions for you today. Actually, the first person I'd like to bring up is Sergeant Jennifer Ingram, who you have that correctly, from the Prince William County Police Department. The way that all of our sessions are set up today, and we hope that you stick for us, will be great. They're 45 minutes. We have two 15-minute portions for each one of the presenters, and then there's kind of a question and answer section afterwards. So without further ado, Sergeant Ingram, please come up.
Good morning. Can you all hear me? Okay. So, when this was posed to me yesterday about coming in to speak with you all, I wanted to make sure that I touched on things that you all, that I've seen that you guys all encountered. Elderly or just people in general. So I'm going to touch on a few things, and we'll get a chance for you guys to ask a few questions, and I'll give you the answer. And if I don't know the answer, I will definitely find that and get back to you at a later time. Okay? So I know RP is going to talk about scams, but I'm going to kind of briefly touch upon it and things that we see at the police department. So scams. You guys get that phone call that says, hey, your car insurance, you need to update it. Tech support, there's something wrong with your computer, your iPhone. Or, hey, we can get you a lower rate on your credit card. Most of those are scams. Do you ever answer, who still has a landline? There you go. So, how many times you answer the phone, it rings all day long, and you don't hear anything, and all of a sudden you hear like beep, a click, and then somebody says hello. They're trying to sell you something, and they're probably a scam. So as I told my mother, hang up the phone. Don't even talk to them. Those are generally somebody, there might be a small portion of those that are trying to legitimately sell something, but 9 times out of 10, they are trying to scam you or to high pressure sell you into something. Don't ever answer. So my tip on that is if you call hello and they don't say anything and there's a pause, they are mass calling you to see if you're going to answer. If you answer, they're going to immediately go, hey, is this Jennifer? Nope, not here. Please? Nobody's here, I just hang up the phone. So assume that those are scams. Grandchild's calling for money. I've heard somebody once called my mom saying, it's your grandson. I need bail money, Grandma. I got locked up. Well, good thing she doesn't have any grandsons, all granddaughters. It's a scam. Make sure with these, also emails. I get the question from my mother a lot, and I'll refer to, because this is a daily occurrence with her. Hey, Amazon sent me an email, and they said that there's something wrong with the account. Mom, your email's not tied to Amazon, it's mine. So it's fraud. So when you get, especially these emails, don't listen to them, don't do anything with them. If you just open it, don't click on anything. Don't click on any links that are within them. Don't respond to it. If it's Truist Bank, because that's who you bank with, and it says there's a problem with your account, then go and call Truist Bank yourself. Don't answer the email, just call them yourself. If Amazon sends you an email that says, hey, there's a problem with your account, don't do anything with that email. Go to Amazon themselves, because they are very good at making emails that look like they're from these companies to look legitimate. So The simple way to deal with these is if it's an email, pardon me, go strictly to that company and say, did you send me something? Is there a problem with my account? Never answer them, never click on anything. The ones on the phone call, hey, there's a problem with your account. Can you verify what your social security number is? No. Can you tell me what my social security number is? Never give them any personal information. Don't tell them anything. Like, no, I'm busy. I'm making dinner right now. I'll call you back later. Whatever number they give you, don't call that number back. Go find that number through a good source, then call them. Because if I'm scamming and I say, hey, can I call you later on then if you're making dinner? Sure, here, call me on this number. Well, you're going to call the scammer back, right? So get a legitimate number for them and then call them back. And that should help a lot of the time with scams. If they ask for payment using a gift card, a Green Dot card, or some type of card that's preloaded with money, it's a scam 100%. No reputable business or government agency is going to ask you for a prepaid card. Never go to a store, buy prepaid cards, and give them that number on the back. Tax support places will do that. They'll do it a lot of times for bail. Sometimes you get it for, they'll say, we're the government and we're going to come arrest you because you didn't pay your taxes. The government's going to not ask for a prepaid gift card. So if you get that, it is a scam. No prepaid gift cards. So not sharing your personal information. Know what's going on. Watch the news. I know a lot of the time it's upsetting and dreary, but know what's going on. If there's a disaster, somebody's going to try and scam on that. Hey, can you donate towards, this horrific event? Don't do it. Look up online or ask people a great place that you want to give money to donate to. Because the people calling you are probably scamming for you. Or if they call you, say, no, I'll do it later, or I'll look up, and you can probably donate to them another way. So always do a checks and balances. Call places directly. Don't use the numbers that they've given you. Don't click on any links. Monitor your accounts. A lot of people here are probably more tech savvy than I am. I monitor my accounts. I get updates. You can actually set on your phone withdrawals. If you spend more than $20, I want a text message sent to my phone. That's how I found out that somebody stole $8,000. Well, these cash stuff worth $8,000 because I got a text message. And I knew immediately and was able to get rid of it. So monitor your accounts. If you're not too good with that, have somebody that you trust that can monitor your stuff. Pay attention and always double check everything. Don't take things on face value. I know AARPs can hit on a little bit more of that. Also fraud. Unfortunately, I see this every now and again, that sometimes we have those family members that might have strayed a little bit from a good lifestyle. Have we seen elderly people or disabled people being taken advantage of by family? Unfortunately, we have. So make sure that you keep track of your finances. Just review them. Make sure that if I'm your daughter and there's $500 missing from your account, you should be able to go, hey Jen, where did this $500 go? I should be able to say, well Mom, I used that to pay for this. Oh, okay. Just a little bit of checks and balances. It's not accusatory, it's just making sure that we're checking on what's happening. Bounce checks, ordinary withdrawals. We're all creatures of habits, right? We do pretty much the same thing most days. I can tell you exactly what I do most of my day because humans are a creature of habit. If there's a withdrawal or something going on with your account that is not a habit of yours or a habit of the person that you're entrusting with your money, question. So keep on looking at your accounts. Don't give large sums of money. Don't sign over your property to people. We've seen that happen a lot where they take over your property and now they're selling it and you're going, where am I supposed to live? Always have a third party or an impartial party in there to get in on these transactions. It's going to look out for the best for you and have some questions. Always have other people involved. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Home security, big thing, right? Because we read all these things on the news and we're wondering, do we live in the worst place ever? I can tell you, I lived in Prince County my entire life. I've been a police officer for 17 years. My parents still live in this county. I don't really worry about them. I have little concerns, but as long as you are not involved in a high-risk lifestyle, and I mean, you're not doing illegal narcotics, you know, you aren't involved in the underground world, you're not thieving, you're not doing anything crazy, the chance that you're going to be a victim of a crime is pretty low. So let me assure you on that. But still, stay alert. Know what's going on around you. It's something as simple, I'm not saying walk around scared, just see what's going on. If you see somebody starting to act a little bit questionable, you're starting to get a bad feeling about them, trust your gut. Always trust your gut. So if you're walking down the street and you see Jen and you're not sure, I look a little scary to you, cross the street, go into a business. It might not be a business that you're interested in, sorry, but trust it. Go into a different business. You can call us and say, I'm not comfortable. Can you come and help me? I'll send an officer over there. If not, I'll come. Make sure you lock all your doors. If you're leaving for the day, it's nice out, lock all your doors, lock all your windows. Lock your car doors. That's what we see a lot, is car theft out of your car. Don't keep anything valuable in there. Don't leave spare keys to your house in your car. Don't leave a spare key to the car in the car, because that car's not going to be there when you get there. Make sure you take all that stuff out of your car. Don't lend your keys to anybody. Don't lend out your car to anybody that you don't really know. Utilize porch lights, whether they're the ones that have the sensors that come on during dusk, or ones that stay on all the time. Put them on a timer. I'm gone for 11 hours a day. When it starts to get nighttime, my light comes on. Get to know your neighbors. That way we can look out for each other. Still have a sense of community. I guarantee you, anybody that goes into my home neighborhood knows my father, because he's always sitting outside waving to everybody he talks to. So when he now has memory issues and he wanders a little bit, somebody gives me a call saying, hey, I see Dad down the street and things. I'll go fetch him. So still get to know your neighbors. You could also make sure that we keep our yards in a particular way. Make sure that you don't have leaves and branches covering your windows. Don't have them covering your door. Make sure that there's nothing around your door blocking your obstructions so that you can see. Doorbell cameras. Anybody have those? They're amazing, aren't they? You don't have to move up. You don't have to get from the couch. You can talk to people. And what does that do? That lets people know that you're there, you're listening, you're watching. Wireless cameras. Those are amazing. I can watch those. I can watch my house right now to see what's going on. It's just being aware and looking. It's not about being afraid. It's being aware. There's also wireless 3M films and stuff that you can put on your windows to prevent them from shattering. Also, walking groups if you're going out. But always remember, if you see something questionable, say something. Tell somebody. You can call us and we'll go and check it out. If you have Facebook, you can message us on Facebook and tell us, hey, I always see this going on during the day. Can you guys come check it out during the day? We'll go and check it out. So you can also call us anonymously and we'll come out. Okay? But most victims of crimes, with the exception of a couple property crimes, are high-risk lifestyles. Prince County is a good place. It's pretty safe. I feel comfortable having my 70-year-old mother running around this area. So have that confidence. I don't worry about their safety. Is there any questions? I know there's not a lot of time, but.
I think we can do, have both people speak and then we'll have Q&A.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much. We know there might be a bit of an amplification problem, but then it's all.
Can everyone in here actually, does this seem to make any difference, or is this purely cosmetic for everyone? It does make a difference?
Or is it just because I'm laughing? Okay. All right, everybody, come on up. Maybe you might actually be better served to hold it.
Good morning, my name's Mark. Can everybody hear me? Okay, my name's Mark Bailey. I've been a community ambassador for ARP now for about 7 years, and I've been doing frauds and scam presentations for about 7 years. And one of the things that the officer went over, a lot of things that we're going to go over today, the agenda, we're going to show you the top scams 2022, and unfortunately it also is top scams in 2023. We're going to go over some common characteristics of all the scams. So you'll find these characteristics on most of the scams. In fact, all the scams are going to have some of these characteristics in it. Then we're going to show you ways to protect yourself against the scams and also some resources. Okay, top scams in 2022, investment scams. $3.8 billion scammers got for investment scams. And you'll notice an investment scam is something where it's 100% guaranteed. You're going to get a high return on your investment. It's going to be a fast return on your investment. So all of these, especially for the elder, the time limit on it is what we want. We want fast money. This is what the scammer's going to promise you. Again, 100% guaranteed, 100% safe. You're not going to lose your money, but you're going to give your money up before the scammers are going to put you in there. Imposter scams. This is $2.6 billion last year in imposter scams. Out of the imposter scams, you'll have the government will call you up. They'll either call you, text you, send you an email. And one thing you want to remember, the government will not call you, they will not email you, they will not text you, and very seldom will they knock on your door. If you have any of those associations with the government initially, it's a scam. If you've made initial contact with the government, then they're allowed to communicate with you in some other way. But their government scams usually is something where, hey, you can call the IRS is writing you, emailing you or something like that, and you owe money. Or principal in kind is saying, hey, you got parking tickets stopped due, we have a warrant out for your arrest. And you can alleviate that if you pay us money. You also have friends of the family, or one of your friends may text you and say, hey, I lost my wallet, I need money, can you do me a favor and wire me some money? And you'll have friends of, or a family member, and this is the sergeant said something about grandparent scams. Okay, grandparent scams, granddaughter calls up, says, oh, I'm in the hospital, I need money. One of the things, 6 months ago, I used to say, oh, grandparent, you can disguise your voices. And the first thing the grandparent does is, Johnny, is that you? You're not told the scammer your grandparent's name, or your grandson's name. Okay, so this is one of the things you want to do. You don't tell them anything there. On the grandparent scam, you're going to ask for money, and right now with artificial intelligence, they can mimic the voice. They can clone the voice of a person with 3 to 5 seconds of that person's voice. So to give you an idea of what we're facing now, that's what the scammers can do. You also have your tech support. This is where you have a pop-up comes up or a telephone call saying, hey, your computer has a virus in. Give us control of your computer and we'll get rid of the virus for you. Next one will be your lottery. This is where you have your lottery or your grants, where you've won the lottery. Now the question there I ask a lot of people is, have you heard of anybody winning a Virginia lottery without buying a ticket? Exactly. You have to play to pay, or pay to play. So if you get an email or something that says you won the lottery, you know it's a scam unless you bought the ticket. Same thing with a grant. If you've been awarded a grant and you didn't apply for the grant, it's a scam. And the last one, identity theft. Now identity theft is a little bit different. In fact, identity theft and identity fraud are federal offenses to begin with. Now identity theft is where a scammer will get your identity. And what was interesting, about 2 years ago, the president of LexisNexis said, if you're over the age of 18, your identity is already for sale on the dark web. So you've already lost part of your identity. Now, identity theft is anything that can connect you, a piece of information that can connect you. Your email address, your address, regular address, your phone number. That's part of your identity. So identity theft is out there, and the problem with that is you may not know you've been frauded for several years or several months until something comes up. So they can take something from you, use it, and you may not be reported on you. Last year, you had somewhere between $8.8 and $10 billion lost to scammers. That's only about somewhere between 47 and 50% of what the federal government is saying that actually got lost. So you figure between 16 and $20 billion was lost. Worldwide, $6 trillion. In 2025, it's estimated that you're going to have about $10 trillion going to scams and frauds. To give you an idea what that is, if that money was a GNP for a nation, scammers and frauds would be the third largest nation in the world, only exceeded by China and the United States. So this is what we're facing, and right now, and also up until 2025, scamming and fraud is becoming more lucrative than illegal drugs. Okay, some common characteristics. Now, there's a lot of information we're going to give you, and it's like, okay, are you going to remember all of it? Probably not. There's two things I do want you to remember. The two weapons you have against frauds and scams are your due diligence and your vigilance. So this is what you have to do. Due diligence and vigilance is what you have to be aware of. And here's something. Does everybody remember the vowels they had in grade school? A-E-I-O-U? Okay, if you can just remember that, this is what we're doing on the scams. First part of the term, the A, action. There's going to be some type of action that the scammer wants you to take. They either want you to press on a button, they want you to answer the phone, they want you to give them money. There's some type of action you have to take for the scammers to alleviate the situation, to resolve the issue. Emotion. All scams are based on emotion. There's not one scam out there that is based on intelligence. Okay, all scams are based on emotion. All right, the grandparent scam. You get a call from your granddaughter. Oh, I'm in trouble. Are you going to logically think about that? No. First thing comes up is emotion. What's the matter? You win the lottery. Whoa, I got money. Emotion. Okay, so all scams are based on emotions. All the red words in red, they're the types of emotions that is elicited by the different actions here. Okay, immediate action is required. Whatever it is, it has to be acted on immediately. You have to do it now. And the other thing the scammer is going to tell you to do is keep it a secret. Do not tell anybody about this. So you have to act on it. You have to act on it immediately. The outcome, if you do not comply with what we're telling you, something bad is going to happen. You're going to lose your lottery winnings. You're going to be arrested. Your Social Security benefits are going to be suspended. So all these things the scammer is going to tell you. Again, get your emotions set up so that you follow what the scammers are going to tell you to do. And they're almost always unexpected. You get a text message out of the blue, you didn't expect it. You get an email from somebody, you didn't expect it. Get a letter from the IRS, you didn't expect it. Again, all these things are a surprise. Again, get your emotions up. 91% of the scams or the cyber attacks are based on phishing. So this is your email. So this is part of the one platform we want to cover more than any other platform. Now, other ways that the scammers will get it will be phone, texting, and the new QR codes that are out there. But email is a big thing, and it's called phishing. You can buy 10 million emails on the dark web for $120. Now, whether they all work or not is a question. But if a scammer's got 10 million emails, he can blow out a lot of phishing emails on these things. So this is what you have to look at there. Some things to look at on the email. The emails are going to be generic. When you get an email from them, they're not going to say, Dear Martin or Dear Mr. Bailey. They're going to say, Dear Beneficiary. Hey, congratulations, you won. Or may not even have anything. The closest they've ever come is my email address when addressing me. So it's going to be generic. If you get a generic email, chances are it's a scam. Most of the common characteristics that we just went over are going to be contained in that email somewhere. Okay, you may have one, two, you may have a couple of them, but they'll be contained in that email or the text that you get. Okay, suspicious email addresses. You get a email from Microsoft. It says, something's wrong with your computer or your account's overdue. Look at the email address. Does it have anything about Microsoft in it? If it doesn't, no. And the question you have to do is, why are they using a Google email or Gmail or Hotmail? Okay, they would be using some type of corporate mail, or if it's a government.gov for their email addresses. Okay, attachments and URLs. Do not touch them. Do not click on anything. It will probably download malware on your machine. Do not go to the URL. If you click on the URL, download malware and or send you a site that they're going to collect information from. So these things you do not want to touch, especially if it's an unexpected email or unexpected text. And then grammar and spelling errors. Look for your grammar and spelling errors. One thing with artificial intelligence you'll have now, a lot of the grammar and spelling errors have been corrected. One thing the scammers are doing, two of the biggest nations that do these frauds are Pakistan and India, and when they do the artificial intelligence, they're using the King's English and not the colonial English that we do. So you'll get that grammar in there. So it's another way to look for the scams. Okay, some prevention strategies. Do not make any financial decisions while you're under some emotion. If somebody's writing emotionally upset for some reason, do not make a financial decision. Give yourself 24 to 48 hours. The next one is actually from the Secret Service. They recommend do not give any money to anybody that you have not met personally. If you've not met the person, do not give them money. Okay, do your research. Charities can pop up. You have an event that comes up, charities come up on it. If you remember Camp Lejeune had the water thing. When the Russians invaded Ukraine, you had big things come up on charities. So all these things come up on charity. What happened? Okay, these are the things that the scammers do. The scammers read the paper. They follow the events, and that's what they're going to do. You'll want to investigate it. Go on the Better Business sites, things like that. If it's a financial scam, go onto some of your financial bureaus and check to see if there's anything out there. Or put down Regulation 101 scam and see what comes up on that one there. Screen articles, what we recommend, okay, is don't answer. Let the call go to voicemail. If it's a legit call, they'll have an answer, they'll leave a message. And then you can decide what you want to do with it. Do you want to call the number they leave? Probably not if it's unexpected. Look the number up, especially if it's a government number, look it up. So you don't want to do that one here. If they do not leave a message, you know it's probably a scam. Or if they call back later and don't leave a message, again, don't worry about it. If you do answer, and this is one of the things that's interesting, if you do answer, don't say anything. Give it 5 to 10 seconds and listen to it click. What they're doing is they're collecting information. The information they're collecting is that there's a human being at the end of the line. They're going to take that list, they're making a list out, they're going to take that, they're going to sell it to another scammer because chances are someone's going to answer that line, and then you'll get another scammer on the other line will actually talk to you. Check all questionable communications. Develop a no response. If you ever meet a scammer in person, a lot of times you'll have a luncheon you're invited to make certain investments. These scammers will get you, they'll start talking to you, and after a while you really want to break contact with them. Develop a no response. What that is basically, my no response is no thank you, send me the information in the mail. Once you start that, that is the only thing you say to them. What color is your car? No thank you, send me the information in the mail. Is it a nice day out? No thank you, send me the information in the mail. Sooner or later, the scammer's going to realize he's wasting their time, and they're going to back off. Okay, personal information. Like the officer said, do not share any personal information. If they can't tell you why they want it, what they're going to do with it, do they sell it afterwards, how do they store it? If you don't like the answer to any of those questions, they don't need your information. The other one is we say shred sensitive information. Now we're saying shred everything. Okay, on sensitive information, you're talking about your credit card reports, your bank reports, things like that. We're saying shred everything. The scammers do not need to know from a return address on your bank account where your bank at. They don't need to know that. So we're saying shred everything. Okay, and get a cross-class shredder if you can. Monitor all your financial documents, again, if you get it through the mail. Even if you don't get it through the mail, if you do banking online, look at what's on your credit card, what's on your banking statements. Do you recognize everything? Your explanation of medical benefits. Do you recognize everything that you went through for medical? Okay, so these are the things you want to know. If there's something awry, call the provider and find out what happened here. Call up the company and find out, hey, I didn't make this charge, what happened here? Okay. Another thing you may want to do is look at the informed delivery through the Postal Service. You go and register your mail with the Postal Service. What they will do is they will take a snapshot of it, and this snapshot comes to you every day by email, and it tells you between 3 to 10 days you're going to receive this type of mail here. So you get an idea what's coming in the mail. If for some reason you're missing something like a bill, find out why you're missing it. Did they do a change of address or something on you? Do not download or click on anything. That went over pretty good. On your pop-ups, okay, you get the pop-up saying, hey, you got a problem with your computer. We're telling you, do not do any of that stuff there. You'll want to delete the pop-up and do an Alt F4. That will delete the pop-up. And then you'll want to either turn your computer off and then turn it back on and do a virus scan, or once it's deleted, do a virus scan. Okay, the other thing you want to do is make sure you have all your files backed up somewhere. And periodically check your credit reports with the 3 credit bureaus. There's information on the AARP table out there on how to freeze your account if you want to do that. And it's real good information. We recommend that you do freeze your account. Next one here, keep operating the antivirus software current, up to date. We recommend that you automatically, when you load it, or right now go back in your machine, and make sure it does an automatic update for you. So that way there, the company will download, say, hey, it's automatic update. How do you want it updated? Do it at the end of the day, you can do it now. But it gives you the automatic, most recent updates for your antivirus and operating system. Keep your passwords and passphrases private. Obviously, do not share them with anybody. Now, the next 3 I have stars on. Your cybersecurity experts say if you have these, if you're doing these next 3, you will prevent somewhere between 70 and one company says 99% of your chances of being scammed. The 99% is a little high, but the 70 to 90% is probably doable on this one here. One of the things, unique passwords. Okay, it used to be 4-digit password was a good one. Then they changed it to 6. Now it's up to 8. Now they're saying 8 is multifunctional authentication or multi-factor authentication. Now they're saying anywhere from 16 or 12 to 16 to 25, especially if you're in the IT profession. You'll want 25 or more. If you start getting that high, you'll want what's called a random password generator. It will do a random password for you. And because it's so hard to remember, you also want a password manager. Again, before you get those, research them out to find out which is the best for you. You may also want to do a passphrase. Passphrase is something like, my aunt lives in Philly. That's an 18-character one. Again, it's easy to remember, so you might want to do that one there. Multi-factor authentication. This is where you put your username in, your password in, click on it, and the account will come back and say, how do you want your code sent to you? And they will send a 6 to 8-digit code to you. You have to put that in before you actually go to your account. And then place a fraud alert or freeze on your credit bureau accounts. We recommend a freeze, because that way there they cannot check, no one can check your credit, no one can open up another credit card on you, and that way there you're pretty well protected. If you do have to open it up, you have to open it up yourself. Okay, resources, Fraud Watch Networks, the good one to get a lot of fraud information on here. Fraud Watch Network Helpline, this is a helpline that if you're a victim of fraud, call them up. They will try to work you through on what you have to do. If they can't help you up, they'll turn you over to someone like myself. FTC.gov, report fraud. The FBI one is IC3.gov. 2 good reporting sites to go to. And then your annual credit report. That phone number there will give you your annual credit reports that you have to should check at least once a year, if not 3 times a year. Okay, are there ready for questions?
Do we have any questions? Oh, this is way better. Okay, so this will not reach, so maybe direct your questions up this way and I'll repeat out so the whole room can hear. I suspect you could probably either reach out to these people afterwards, or if you also have our contact information, we will have all of this stuff electronically. It will be posted to our website, and we can also make sure that you get that electronically. But physical copies, maybe speak to them afterwards if you're amenable. Yes, ma'am, in front here. So for anyone who didn't hear, the question is basically, if you're doing all the good stuff to try and shred all the files at home, what does that even do if on the internet you just type in somebody's name and their entire life history just springs to life right in front of you?
You can try to go to the company that's publishing it and ask them to take it off. Some of them will, some of them won't. A lot of your information is already out there. Now, we talked about the dark web. Now, if you look at the web, top of the web is where we do our Amazon type transactions. Middle part, there's a lot of business stuff there. The dark web is where we use it, and so do the criminals use it. And you can sell and buy anything on the dark web. If your information is out there, I can almost guarantee you that it's on the dark web, and the criminals don't care whether you want it off or not. They'll keep it on it. So if it goes to the highest bidder, if it's on the dark web, somebody wants to buy it, they can buy it. You have what's called a Fools Package, F-U-L-L-Z, anywhere between $35 to $130, and it will give you like a driver's license, social security, birth certificate, information on a person. So they're very hard to come off. Again, get with the company that you see it published, tell them you want to take it off. They might take it off for you, they might not. You can try, yeah, you can try. Whether or not you will do it again, you saw how big the business is, okay? When you talk about scammers now, you're not talking about the high school dropout in grandma's basement playing on his little laptop. You're talking about organized crime. Okay, you're talking about gangsters. You're not talking about, some little kid running around some high school dropout. No. You're talking about organized crime. On the dark web, they actually have job applications that mimic Microsoft for developers, for $120 a year for a developer for a criminal organization. So this is what's out there. This is what we face. And this is why, when I said the only really two weapons you have is the due diligence and vigilance, you have to be careful of everything. In fact, a lot of the AARP people don't like to do fraud presentations because we're the black hats. We give you the bad news. A lot of the other AARP people give you some good news.
Well, we thank you for making us aware. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I'm getting a lot of emails, somebody asking me about the equipment, and there's kind of a strike, but if I get there, I try to know
This is a question about basically responding in an unsubscribed fashion to an email that you received from what appears to be a genuine local entity.
On something like that, we recommend if you just get an email, you don't click on it, just delete it, okay? Because a lot of scammers will, in fact, they've gotten so sophisticated now, where you know how you have that little X, that you'll delete it. Some scammers will actually have you delete that, and I'll download something on your machine. Okay, so it's when you have that, and a lot of times your email should have like a file, the email that you're actually brought up to read, and then like a reader over here. Well, the reader, you haven't downloaded it yet. So we recommend when you have that, you haven't downloaded it yet, just delete it from your machine.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Well, hearing none, I just want to take a minute to thank you both very much for coming out and presenting us some information. Appreciate it. For everybody else in the room, we now have basically what works out, I think it's like an 18-minute break. There is another session that starts at 11:30 if you are so interested. That session is about local programs and resources. It will feature Marie Barnes from Adult Services, Department of Social Services, and also Sarah Henry, I believe, from the Prince William County Agency on Aging. And that will be at 11:30. So feel free to go out, go to the restrooms, go mingle with the vendors out front, or stay exactly where you are. Thank you. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our second session, which I'm sure will be at least as fantastic as the first. For those of you who weren't in here for the first one, my name is Joe Stainsby. I'm the Chief Development Officer for OmniRide. And a few people have asked today, why is OmniRide putting this on? That seems like a weird thing for OmniRide to do. Well, we very much see ourselves as essentially as we are mobility for the county, right? A lot of the services and things that this event is targeted at with access can do so via OmniRide. And so we thought that we would step up and kind of create a forum for people to come and give you some information. And that's what we're going to do. So this second session is on local programs and resources. It's a 45-minute long session. We have two 15-minute segments for each of the presenters if they need to take that time, and then we'll kind of have our Q&A session at the end, okay? So the first to come up is Miss Marie Barnes, and she is with the Adult Protective Services Department of Social Services. Is that correct? Yes. I got it right. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, particularly because today, and many of you may be aware, is World Elder Awareness Day. And it's June 15th, tonight's faculty, and it's June 15, 2023, and it's throughout the world. So there are a lot of presentations that are taking place. There's one annually in Washington, D.C., you know, with a lot of real important people, but not as important as you, that are there. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. So I have the pleasure of talking to you a little bit about adult services, adult protective services, which falls under Prince William County Department of Social Services. Now, I'm going to do a disclaimer. We have a slide presentation. I am not going to read you from the slides. Just going to kind of summarize it. And after the other presenter, I'm told, is when we'll have Q&A. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to just do this real quick. I'm going to ask for 2 volunteers. What this says is when you hear the terms adult protective services, what comes to your mind? Okay, that's one. Say it again, please. Can you hear in the back?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so someone shakes their head. So one person said elder abuse, and the other person said children trying to get something from you, your money or moving in. Okay, so thank you. So those are some of the things that some of the calls or reports that we receive in terms of adult protective services. Okay, next slide. This is what I said I'm not going to read to you, but what I want you to know, what's important for you to know is APS, many of you out in the atrium, when you stopped by the table, we asked you, were you familiar with CPS, Child Protective Services, and many of you said yes. So Adult Protective Services is also a mandated program in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So every locality has it, and our mission, our goal, we must respond to reports when we receive them through the hotline, and we have the number at the end. And we respond to reports from anyone, and they can be anonymous. And these are when people are calling because they have concerns about possible abuse, neglect, or exploitation. So that's why this program exists. Adult services, when we get those calls, those are for individuals who do not meet the criteria for abuse or neglect or exploitation, but may be in need of some services. And transportation is a big one. Let me say that to you. Next slide. So we'll talk about what's the mission. So the key things in terms of permission is to protect older adults, and when we say older adults, that's not my definition. Let me preface that. Older adults is anyone over the age of 60, and incapacitated adults are 18 to 59. Those meet the criteria. And for 18 to 59, the individual must have a disability. And it's not a certain type of physical, mental, but those are the criteria to be eligible for services. So that's what our mission is to protect those individuals who meet those categories. And then the next talks about preventing the abuse. So what do I mean when I say abuse? We're talking about all different types of abuse: emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect. Did someone say something? Mental, correct. Neglect. It could be self-neglect. Sometimes people have various conditions that result in self-neglect. And sometimes it's because that individual, and I'll give you an example, someone may be bedridden, and just have chronic pain. So the idea of taking their medications, preparing something to eat, it may not be deliberate, but that's a chore that they just don't have the energy and may not have the support. So that's what we mean by self-neglect or neglect by others. And others could be anyone. Others could be family members. Others could be if someone's in a facility. But that's what we mean by neglect. And then when we talk about we use the word incapacitated. That's a legal term. But that term really means that that person has been deemed by a physician to not, a couple of things. That person does not have the ability to make decisions for themselves. That person does not have the ability to understand the ramifications of their choices, which could be not taking medication. Think about it. If you have certain diagnosis, if you're diabetic and you don't take your medication, you can get into some serious trouble. So that's what we're talking about when we say incapacitated adults. And one thing I want to point out to you is, we've heard this, but there are plenty of people who are over 60 and they don't have dementia. I'm going to be very clear on that. So it is not something that just because you're a certain age, people want to sometimes automatically label and say you have dementia. And that is not true. That's a diagnosis. And then what we also, our mission is to support people in the least restrictive environment. Most people want to remain in their homes, and that's what we support. But we support that you remain in your homes, but you must be safe in your homes. And sometimes people remain in their homes and they're no longer safe. And so that's what we do. That's least restrictive environment is what we always focus on. And then it talks about possibly sometimes we assist family members with placements when a person cannot remain safely in the home. And placement depends on what your needs are. I also want to do a disclaimer because sometimes people think we're going to come to your house and take you and put you in a nursing home. We don't have the authority to do that. No one has the authority to do that. If you're in a medical crisis, emergency medical services can transport you to the hospital in some situations, if you agree, but no one can come to your home, and certainly not adult protective services, and place you anywhere. And we talk about maximizing self-sufficiency, and that's always important. It's important for you to be able to make decisions about your life. Next slide. And this talks about adult protective services. The only thing I want to say to you is I've talked to you about what the criteria is for adult protective services. Adult services is another program that we administer. Next slide, please. And so under adult services, let me give you an example. One of the primary programs that we administer under adult services is we go out with the nurses from the Prince William Health District. You all have heard of the Prince William Health District? The nurses. We go out with them to do screenings for long-term care. So you may have a friend or yourself and you need long-term care, but you want to remain in your home. So we go out and we do these screenings, and there's a process. It's a process, but it has to be done within 30 days. And we do those screenings to see whether or not you meet criteria because Medicaid pays for those services in the home. So that's one of the things under adult services. We also maintain the guardian reports for Prince William County. So if you have a guardian or you become a guardian for someone, there are certain tasks that you're required to do annually, and we maintain those particular reports. We get calls for everything. Can you imagine it? We get calls for beds, we get calls about vehicles, we get calls for everything. And so that's why today is so important, because we have many of our community partners here that can assist. OmniRide talks about being here. So we may give people information on OmniRide because they need assistance in getting to medical appointments or whatever it may be. But that's what adult services does, and the goal is to provide services to keep people safe and to meet their needs. Next slide. Prince William County, and here what I wanted to share with you just a little bit about what we experienced in terms of reports, and this was for the last fiscal year. So what it says up here is when we look at allegations, so our allegation is what's the concern that we receive. The highest allegation type is self-neglect. That's what we receive in terms of calls from our hotline or the state hotline. And then the next is neglect. As I said, it could be by a variety of individual, family, friends, paid unfortunately. And then financial exploitation. Any of you surprised that we're seeing an increase in financial exploitation? Any of you ever get a call from a scammer? Get one right now? Okay, so that we know is what's going on with financial exploitation. We have information out to talk to you about financial exploitation. You don't recognize the phone number, don't answer. If it's important, critical, what will they do? Leave a message. Okay. And they might leave a message too, but you don't know that person, so we're going to discard it. Is that right? We're going to disregard it. And then we use the term, we're doing an investigation, so all you just need to know is when we, at the conclusion of our investigation, we have to make a decision. And we use the term founded and unfounded. And I'm pleased to say that the majority of the reports that we receive are unfounded. That means that our investigation showed that whatever the allegation was, it was not preponderance of evidence to say that the abuse and neglect occurred. That doesn't mean that the person doesn't need services. It just means that our investigation did not show that they were being abused or neglected. And then the next slide talks about monthly reports, and it just shows you that we receive at least, our average is 60 reports a month. So think about that. That's the number of reports that we receive. We receive some reports that are screened out, which means that they're not valid. So 60 reports is a lot of reports because I don't have a large staff, why don't you say that, okay? And we have to respond. And then the last point, can you just go back, please? Okay. No, that's okay. And then the last one just talked about the screenings. Remember I talked about we go out and do screenings? We do those mostly in homes, but we do go to nursing facilities, skilled nursing facilities, or assisted living facilities. These screenings can be done in the hospital. It says LTSS, that's long-term supportive services. They can be done in the hospital, but we don't go into medical facilities. They can do their own. They do their own. And I just wanted to point out to you, that says 55 to 60. Well, I just did the stats for the month of May, and we had 104. So we need to change that, right? Next slide, please. And this just points out some of the challenges and barriers that we are experiencing. And I'm sure all of you know that this is not just Prince William. These are challenges and barriers throughout the Commonwealth. Homelessness, we're seeing an increase in reports for homelessness. How about affordable housing? That's a challenge for us. People shaking their heads. Chronic and multiple medical conditions. Some people have 5 or 6 or 7 diagnoses, whether it's physical and or mental. Lack of support systems, and that's a major, that contributes to isolation and depression. And sometimes support systems are non-relatives, and that's fine, at least you have a support system. And then co-occurring diagnosis, I just talked about that. It could be more than one mental health diagnosis, or it could be both. And then finally, we're still talking about physical and mental health. We know some of the challenges that individuals face. If you don't have insurance, or getting sometimes being able to talk someone into seeking services because they don't feel that they have a need for services. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. And this right here, I'm just going to go past it. We just set goals for ourselves. You know, one of the things that everyone needs to do is you always need to set goals for yourself and your staff. And those were just goals that we had. And our big goal was to make sure that we keep abreast of current trends and that we're involved in training so that we can better serve our community. And I believe the next is the last slide. Oh, it's not. I'm going to make it the last slide. Last slide. Okay. And this is making a report. The key things I want to stress to you. The first number, 703-792-4200. That's the hotline for Prince William Department of Social Services. And the calls are recorded. You do not have to identify yourself. However, it's very helpful for us if you do identify yourself because we may need to call you to get some additional information and if you want to follow up. But that's where you can make a report. You are not required to determine whether or not abuse or neglect has occurred. Just if you have a concern. And I really want to stress that because sometimes people are reluctant because they're thinking, well, maybe it's not really neglect or maybe it's not abuse. That's not for you to determine. You have a concern and there's a reason for that, and make that call. The next number is for the state hotline. So if you call 4200, it's a hotline that's busy or after 4 p.m. That's when the local hotline closes or shuts down. The state hotline is 888-832-3858. And so what they do is they will take the report and then they will transfer that report to Prince William County. We provide emergency duty coverage. So what that means is if a report comes in on a holiday or if a report comes in on the weekend or 1 a.m., 2 a.m., if the report comes in and we have to respond, there's always someone that responds. Because emergencies don't just happen from 8:30 to 5, we know that. I thank you very much for your attention, and our next presenter will come up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we now have Ms. Linda Moore from the Prince William County Agency on Aging. Is that correct? Yeah, I got it right. All right, and we will be doing questions at the end, so if you hold questions at the end for both of the presenters, but great, thank you. Come on.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Linda Moore, Prince William Area Aging, and I'm here to share some of our services with you. We're located at 5 County Complex Court in Woodbridge, in the Development Services Building, which is next to the court. I'm going to first share with you our support. I'm going to first share with you our supportive services. Our supportive services are for older adults, their caregivers, veterans, individuals with disabilities, and those in transition from hospitals to residents. Information and referral. Staff has access to resources, the database of over 27,000 resources. So if we don't have the resource that you need, we can always get you there. This is also the intake line where everything starts with information and referrals, direct services, information and referral. We also have what is called options counseling. We have trained counselors that can help adults in making decisions based on preferences, strengths, needs, values, and individual circumstances. Option counseling is an interactive decision support process whereby individuals are supported in making long-term support choices. Options counseling can be done virtually, in person, or via telephone conversation. Then we have our Medicare counselor. We have a Medicare counselor who can help you with decision making on Medicare decisions. She also can help you with cutting costs on Medicare on prescriptions. And then we have our Meals on Wheels program. Seniors who are over 60 who are homebound, unable to fix themselves a meal, and are home during the day by themselves. There's 5 meals. The meals are delivered once a week. There's 5 meals. On the day the meals are delivered, it's a hot meal and the other meals are frozen. And then we have our personal care program, which is very popular. It's for people over 60, and it helps with the activities of daily living, dressing, bathing, feeding, transferring, grooming. And like I said, we're the first stop for that. And then we have our Veterans Directed Home and Community-Based Services program. The veterans are referred by the Veterans Health Administration, and the Prince William staff helps develop service plans to prevent institutionalization for our veterans. And we have someone on staff who works directly with the veterans. And then we have what's called care transitions. They're for persons being discharged from a healthcare facility. It helps to avoid readmissions and empowers the individual to manage their own health care and to develop skills for possible causes of readmission. And then we have our caregiver support. We have respite care, which is basically done through assisted living facilities. And we have a list of those, keep a list of those. So if anyone is interested in respite, we refer them to assisted living facilities. And we also have support groups through the Alzheimer's Association. In addition to that, we have what is called a care registry. These people are self-employed We do a state background check and a reference check, and we keep their certifications on file. They are not employed with the county. Now, they also do personal care, but in addition to that, they do companion, they can do housekeeping, doctor's appointments, and things like that. However, that's private pay, and we have a list of those individuals as well. And then we have what's called the other services, the adult day health care program. It's for adults 18 or older who cannot stay at home alone. It's also a form of respite because the program is from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it gives family members an opportunity to go out and do the things that they need to do or they have to work. And they have activities there, therapy and meals every day. And then we have a partnership with the Senior Link, which is a telephone reassurance program, and we have a partnership with ACTS. The programs for people 60 and over, and it's open available from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they call to remind them medication reminders. Yes, medication reminders. And it's always, some people have no one to talk to during the daytime. So it's always nice sometimes to hear, human on the other side of the telephone, someone that they say hi and remind you to take your medications. And then we're also in partnership with Northern Virginia Legal Services. We have, at our senior centers once a month, they have some paralegal there to do a group setting and to answer questions that you may have regarding legal services, wills and things like that. They also do a lot of civil legal matters as well. And then we have our long-term ombudsman. And she's an advocate for older adults receiving long-term care. We provide information for clients and their caregivers, and we work to resolve problems between care recipients and the facilities that they reside in. So she's an advocate that helps with the long-term care. Then we have 2 senior centers, one in Woodbridge and one in Manassas, that offer activities and classes. They also have free lunch there every day. The only thing they require that you call in advance to make sure that they have enough lunch to serve. And it's $25 a year to join for membership. We also have volunteer opportunities at the senior centers. We're always looking for people to volunteer and help with some of the programs, to answer the telephone and things like that. We also look for volunteers to help with delivery and drivers for our program. In addition to that, we're also in partnership with the Veterans Transportation Program. It's for veterans and their spouses. They offer rides to doctor's appointments. They just got a grant, so they also will take you to grocery store, pick up prescriptions, and things like that. You have to come through us to be connected to that Veterans Enhancement Program. And that basically completes everything that I had to say.
And that's a lot of resources, right? Okay, so we're going to go into the Q&A period here. So if the two presenters wouldn't mind coming back up. I learned from the first session that moving this microphone is a bad idea because it creates a whole bunch of feedback. So if people want to just go ahead and put their hands up if they have a question, I'll repeat it back into the microphone so that everybody can hear it, and then if you have an answer, then please just come up to the microphone. So, yes ma'am, in front.
Question on legal resources, wills. Come on.
You would give us a call at the office and we would give you the number, and for wills, you would have to make an appointment. Okay?
Anybody else? Yes ma'am.
Adult gay care cost.
I'm not really sure of the cost, but I know they do take Medicaid. But you would have to call them to find out. It's based on a sliding scale income. So it's hard to say exactly how much it would be. It's a sliding scale income. Like I said, again, they also pay Medicare. It's located, I'm sorry, it's here in this building on the backside. Yes, and it's very nice. They have a flower garden and all of that kind of stuff here.
That's the advantage of doing this session here, right? It's a one-stop shop. Yes, ma'am.
This is for you told us about the number we wanted to report something. But if we just want information, what number?
It's a question about the general information line.
You can call the same number at 703-792-4200 and just tell them what you're, just tell them what you're actually looking for. They might refer you to me or one of our staff members, or they may actually provide the information. Yeah. You're welcome.
That's actually a super duper handy segue into something which I should have said, which is that most of the vendors and people that are speaking presented today, they have a stand out front. So please see them before or afterwards to get information. Or stop by the OmniRide table. We conveniently gave ourselves a position right front and center, so you'll see us there. And we will be disseminating all of the presentations and stuff. We'll have them up on our website. And if you want to speak to either Lyric or Althea, who's organising this event today, we can even snail mail you the stuff if you need to, so we'll make sure we get that information out. Yes, ma'am. Okay, well, our website is www.omniride.com. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to, you can just call and ask someone. I don't know if you're the right place to go, but she says I need to go somewhere.
Okay, we're information.
Question on where do I start with this? Who's the general access number?
Yes, the general number is 703-792-6374. And you would call our office and we would direct you. We don't have the service that you need. We will direct you to where you need to go. Yeah, we want you to call. Yeah, we're information assistants, so please give us a call. Like I said, we're the first line that you come to for any services. And I want to also mention that we do have a table out there with cards, phone numbers, and information sheets as well. Okay, so everything I talked about, we have an information sheet about that.
Lady in the back.
Okay, I'm way in the back. Can you all hear me?
Surprisingly well, actually, yeah.
Okay, great. I have questions for Area Agency on Aging, and I probably will need to speak with you all more out front. My mom receives services through the long-term care Medicaid spin down program, but it seems like you mentioned some of the programs. I don't know how you all tie with them, because it seems like you all mentioned some of the things that she's sort of receiving through that program. We needed additional help. I called you all, I guess about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but she needs transportation to appointment. I need to try to make some heads or tails of how we need to go about getting that. And right now, it's a question and a problem with child. So I'm interested in learning more about how you all tie into the services, maybe to complement or overlap with the long-term care, Medicaid, home health-based services that you receive, as well as options for transportation.
Yes, so that might be a sidebar question afterwards, but certainly from the OmniRide perspective, no, I mean, we have information on that. I mean, depending on where she lives in the service footprint, there's either paratransit availability or there is the fixed route deviation service which exists on.
I've already had discussions with you on
Okay.
that. We need stretcher transport.
Okay, that's also another colour, so yeah, maybe our conversation afterwards.
Thanks. But if you could give a little insight of how you all work, maybe hand in hand, or whether it's separate from the services that they receive.
Okay, we do have a list of transportation providers. We don't actually just have a list of providers.
Okay. But is there some type of complement to the services that you all provide in association with? I know you mentioned a lot of programs that you offer. Some of them seem to overlap with what social services provide. Is there in fact an overlap, or
No, what it is, our personal care program will give you anywhere from 2 to 12 hours a week. A lot different from long-term care. We're 2 separate departments. If you get the long-term care, you don't qualify for our program. And you can't be in both programs at the same time. Okay? I understand if you need additional hours, long-term care wants you to go back to them and work it out with them.
I'd like to make a comment in reference to, I'm social services, however, we're totally separate from Medicaid. Let me say that, long-term care Medicaid. So my suggestion would be to talk to your mother's, I don't know what the term, social worker, case manager for the long-term care, to ask them about the transportation. And on the back of your card, there should be a number, because the CCC Plus, I don't have anything to do with them not answering.
No, I'm not saying not,
Yeah.
but it's not an option.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I don't know, maybe you could contact the supervisor for long-term care Medicaid to see if that person has
I know
something.
Mr. Hall.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that's you know, that's what we would suggest. And if she can't, I mean, what about DMAX? What about the Department of Medical Assistance?
Not an option.
You call Richmond?
Yes, and we just had to pay $460 to go 1.3 miles from the place.
Okay. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I don't know any other resources, but I wanted to just kind of share with you that, you know, that's a specific program, and, you know, that whatever, they monitor and manage that. So unfortunately, I don't, you know, have any other resources. We just go out with the nurses and do the screenings, okay?
Thanks.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, go ahead. Question about ascertaining Medicaid eligibility for people that you're caring for. Go ahead.
I don't know if there's anyone here today from the Medicaid under benefits, but I would be willing to go back to my office and give you a card where you can call and apply, because it's based on income and some other resources, and I don't work that program, and neither does Linda, so we don't know. So that would be where you would start. You'd want to apply to see whether or not he meets criteria, because you're correct. The benefits that are offered through Medicaid, and there's different types of Medicaid, that's the other thing. There's different types. And Medicare, they're two totally different programs, especially in terms of benefits. So I'll be willing to do that. If you just go back out here, I'll go get the card and bring it to you, okay?
Amen. Go ahead.
A question about anonymously reporting issues.
Okay, well, let me be clear on this. The Code of Virginia does not allow us to disclose who made the report. The benefits of you leaving your name, because we may want to follow up, or we will follow up with anyone who leaves their name and address at the end of the investigation. But you may be a great resource during the course of the investigation, because you may be able to help us to get in. People don't have to let us in when we go out to their homes. I just want to share that. And so sometimes when people make reports, that can be a real asset. Now, but think about this. There are times when we cannot disclose who made the report, but there are times when we go in a home and the person will say, oh, I know who made that report. Linda made that report. We don't acknowledge it either way, but all I'm sharing with you, my purpose of pointing that out is because due to the nature of the report, it has to be somebody who has some information about you. That's my whole point. But we don't spend time on that because what we really try to get people to focus on is we're here to help you help yourself. And so who made the report isn't really important. But just to get back to your question, the Code of Virginia does not allow all that. The other thing that's good about leaving your information is if you call back. So if you make a report and you don't leave your information, and then you call back and say, well, I made a report. Well, when we go in our system, and if we don't see your name, because of confidentiality, we can't share anything with you. So a couple of reasons why it's helpful, but we can't be. And if they tell you, sometimes people will say, well, Linda told me, they'll say that the social worker told me to call. Because of confidentiality, we can't do that.
Any more questions for anyone? All right. I guess we can stand in each other. Just one more round of applause for our two presenters today. Thank you very much. Okay, so that concludes our second session. We now have, I guess, what's a 23.5-minute break until 12:30, where we have our third session on caregiver support. Will be presentations from UVA Health and also Your Third Eye, who I believe amongst other things do Tai Chi, so they might actually be doing a live demonstration. So go out and stretch your legs, maybe get some refreshments in the lobby, talk to some of our vendors. Of course, you can stay there if you've got a prime seat, you don't want to give it up. Thank you. Make it 12:30. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. This is our third session here. This session is focusing on caregiver support. Again, apologies if anyone was looking at the first two sessions. If there were, this would be very dark to them. It might be anyway. My name is Joe Stainsby. I'm the Chief Development Officer for OmniRide. We're happy to be kind of facilitating this stuff today. So we have two great presentations, including a live demonstration right now. From Your Third Eye, who are up on stage right now, and I believe are going to give us a live demonstration of Tai Chi. And then UVA Health, Diana Askew from UVA Health will be presenting to us a bit after that. So the way the sessions are broken out, we have two 15-minute-ish periods for each of the two groups, and then there's a 10 to 15-minute-ish period for Q&A at the end. So if you do have questions or anything like that, please do wait till the end. And almost all of the presenters today also have lobby events as well. So if you have questions, you can find them afterwards for sidebars or anything like that. And we'll just take it right away there. So I'll hand it right over to you to Rhonda Barnes and Jorge Bernales.
Hello, 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 and hello. My name is Rhonda Barnes. This is my husband Jorge. And we have an organization called Your Third Eye. And that name was uniquely chosen for several different reasons. He was teaching long time. And I learned Tai Chi from him, Jorge. And I started working in an assisted living facility and noticed the need for movement and exercise. So I started to learn how these movements that I learned from him could be translated and exercised while sitting. So now what I do is I go to different facilities and homes and I teach Tai Chi to those who are sitting. And some of my students can stand, but my main objective is to show them that they still have the ability to focus and move their bodies in such a way where they have control. It's so, so important. So I'm going to do a brief demonstration of what I do with my students when I go there. And it's amazing because when I go there, some of them have different ways of behaving and thinking and speaking, but when I get there and I start moving, they know exactly what to do. And we're all moving at the same time. And it is so beautiful. And sometimes when I come home and the first thing he says, "How was your class?" Sometimes my eyes are filled with water because it felt so good. And it really touched my heart. So you can tell this is my passion. This is what I love to do. So I'll give you a brief demonstration and then I'll let Jorge demonstrate what he does. Okay? I work with several props and I play music and I do everything. So I always begin with I always have them do an open and a close. So because you youngsters are here, I'm going to ask you to join me. Okay? Very easy, don't worry. Okay? The first thing I want you to do is to pay attention to how you're sitting. Are you leaning? Are you sitting up straight? Okay? Sorry. The second thing I'm going to ask you to do is to touch your shoulders. And I want you to relax your shoulders. The third thing I'm going to ask you to do is to follow me. And I promise, I won't steer you wrong. Okay? Just follow me. I want you to begin with your hands like this. Okay? And I want you to follow me. And I want you to go slow. Okay? Let's go. anxious, worried, or troubled, or just have stuff on your mind, I want you to do this. Whenever you have those mornings where you don't feel like getting up out of the bed, you feel like you can't move, and it's raining outside, I want you to do this. What that does is it sends a vibration through the body and it tells the body to wake up. Wake up, it's time to move, okay? And each time your hand hits your leg, you'll feel the vibration go through your body, okay? The reason I tell you to go so slow is because I want you to allow your muscle to accommodate the movement you want to make, okay? If we turn, as we all do, and we get something off the shelf, we can injure ourselves. All it takes is a matter of taking a moment to pay attention to how you're moving, where you are. We don't use something that we have, our hips. You turn your hip. You reach for what you need. You bring your arm down, and you turn from your waist. It's just that simple. It's just a matter of taking a moment and taking the time to find out where you are. Okay? Here's where the work comes in.
First of all, has anyone here practiced Tai Chi? Ever? Have you seen Tai Chi? Do you know what it is, how it looks like? Probably you have seen in some movies people doing movements very, very slow, very slow. That is Tai Chi. All the movements in Tai Chi, don't get scared, come from basic training for martial arts in China. We don't do any fighting. If you think, when is that you need to move your body in the most efficient way, using the proper muscles and the joints and the bones, is if you are fighting. So that is where we take and we do the exercises slow. Tai Chi is not about learning more movement, but as Rhonda was explaining, it's a way. It's a way of doing that involves your whole body. You don't just do something, or like when you go, people go to the gym and do exercises and you're doing this and in your arms. It's not like that, Tai Chi. In Tai Chi you do everything with your whole body. You work all the times with your knees slightly bent. That makes an effort on our hips and thighs, where we have the longest bones, the biggest joints, the largest muscles are here. So you will be doing Tai Chi all the time with the knees bent and shifting weight. Shifting weight in a way that you keep balance, not leaning. Shifting weight as if you were on a boat. I'm sure that many of you have been on a boat, the boat keeps moving. You don't lean here and there. You adjust with your legs. Okay? And all the movements in Tai Chi are practiced on both sides. The same movement on both sides. Remember that most of our lives, since we were in kindergarten, we have been trained to work mostly with our field of vision in front of us and half of it, one hand. Most of our life we have been working here. This helps you to coordinate the movements on both sides. The brain works on both sides. And besides, the movements are paced by your breathing. It is a way of doing that every time you bring the feet and the hands close close, you inhale. When you move out, you exhale. I make a noise, you look like this. That leads you to have your body balance, your breathing, and your mind focus on what you are doing at the moment. Our mind is usually very scattered, thinking about things about the past or worrying about the future, and we don't pay much attention to the present moment, which is the only thing real. Past is gone, future has not happened yet. What is that we are doing here? When you are doing the chi, you are paying attention to your mind, your breathing, and your body. You have a few minutes. Okay. All the movements in Tai Chi are organized in sequences just for the sake of practice. There is no special meaning to how they come. And the basic movement, the basic sequence has 24 movements, and I will try to do 3 or 4 minutes. Don't worry much about whether the movements are complex or not. Just pay attention that the body keeps moving constantly. Right? And Sonia is coming from us. That's it. That is part of it. All we are offering the great Ronda does it for people who are confined to chairs, limited mobility, and doing the full form. The idea is remember to keep your body in movement. Keep moving. Keep moving all the time. Don't let arthritis or tiredness or being a little bit depressed sit you down and don't move. As our brochure says, movement is health. Any kind of movement that you do, keep your body and your mind healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
How great was that, right? What did it say? The body in motion stays in motion. Something at rest stays at rest. All right. Okay. Give me a second here.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Diana Askew. I'm a registered nurse with a little over 30 years experience, is that a lot of folks don't know until you're in crisis what's out there, what can help. So I'm with UVA Health System. We own Prince William, Haymarket, and Culpeper Medical Centers in the Northern Market. Now a lot of people go, oh, UVA. That means you're the big corporate giant. We're not a big corporate giant, I promise. We're still community hospitals. And we still care very deeply about our community, and that's one of the reasons that we're here, to share the knowledge that we have.
Sorry, bear with us.
Friend Phil bringing up my PowerPoint. We do have a table out there, and I do have copies of what is in the PowerPoint. So I'd be happy to share those with you guys. I can click my own navigation. I love it. I got it. All right. So what are your options when you have those situations where you need some extra care? So care at home. Obviously, most folks want to stay in their home if they can, right? Simple. So one of the options is private duty care. Private duty care is a great option. It provides the ability to stay in your own home, or in your loved ones to stay in their home, or in your home if you're caring for them in your own home. Private duty care is generally non-skilled services. So they help with things like bathing and dressing, maybe some housework, some simple chores, reminders to give medications. They can't administer medications usually, but if you have a pill box and you could say, could you tell mom to make sure she takes this pill at lunchtime? Some offer assistance with some basic cleaning, up and down stairs, things like that. These services are generally a private pay type situation, so you pay for them out of pocket. Although some long-term care insurances will cover that. So if you have a long-term care insurance policy, it's always good to look at that and ask. Because I think that's one thing that people don't always know what to ask. The next option is home health services. Now, home health services are services that are ordered by a provider, generally your primary care physician, or sometimes your specialist. Maybe if you've had surgery and you need some physical therapy at home, or some occupational therapy. Also covered is skilled nursing services. Maybe you have a wound that the nurse needs to keep an eye on and teach you how to change a dressing on. And speech services. They often also have medical social workers and home health aides. These are often services that are short-term. They're visit-based. So they may come a few times a week. They're not going to come and stay for 3 or 4 or 5 hours like a private duty aide would there, but they're going to come, do their skilled service with you, help with that bath, or change that dressing, give you physical therapy, and then they're going to leave and go on to the next patient. Most of these services are covered under Medicare or private insurances. So that's a great thing, but it is required that it be ordered by a provider. So a provider must say, I think Mary needs some home care. This often is great for our senior population, but guess what? It also works for those of us that aren't in our senior population just yet. I had a total knee replacement done. My doctor ordered physical therapy for me at home. So for 2.5 weeks, the physical therapist came to my house 3 days a week and gave me physical therapy in my home. So as long as the provider orders it and says you need it, and this is the medical reason why you need it, it's available. And as I said, usually that is covered by private insurances or Medicare or Medicaid. So it's a great option. And it doesn't have to be just after you've been in a hospital. A lot of people think you can only get this if you've been in a hospital. Maybe you're not feeling so great, or maybe you've had a fall at home, or something's just not going well with your health. Maybe you have really bad arthritis, or you go to your doctor. You say, hey doc, I'm having trouble with moving around. That physician can order that from their office. It doesn't have to be done just by a hospital or a clinic. So it can be done by your primary care provider or your primary specialist if they think it's something that would benefit you. Another option that I was speaking with, I know a couple folks earlier today, is assisted living resources. Now these are a community. They provide levels of care that is a little bit more than you can get at home. Some facilities have specialty units that deal with memory impaired folks. And if that's something that is a service that you think is something you would really need, I strongly encourage you to look into that. These are generally, again, a private pay resource, so you pay for it out of your pocket. Some long-term care insurances will supplement that or pay for part of that. There's also a benefit through the VA, so if you're a veteran, it's something to definitely look into as well. There is a veterans program called Aid in Attendance, and that often can pay for all or part of this type of facility. The other thing that I encourage you to is if you need some temporary care for your loved one. I was speaking to, I believe it was you earlier, a lady earlier who was caring for their loved one in their home. And one thing that a lot of our assisted living communities offer is what we call respite care. Respite care is, I need a break. I need to get away. I need to go on vacation. I'm going to my niece's wedding. You can call those facilities, and I usually say give them as much time ahead of time as you can. It's like, you know you're going away in September, now's the time to be calling. But they offer temporary care. I'm going away for a week vacation. Do you have any respite care available? So generally then that individual will move into a furnished apartment or studio. They'll get the services that they need, their medications, their meals, assistance dressing and bathing for that short time while you're away. It not only provides you the ability to have a break, which is very important for caregivers, but you know that loved one of yours is being well taken care of. So respite care is a great option. Medicare does not cover assisted living. Medicaid does cover assisted living beds, but they're very, very, very hard to come by. There is, in the entire Northern Virginia area, such a small handful of Medicaid-funded assisted living beds. It's almost criminal. I hate to say that, but it's true. Acute rehab hospitals are also called inpatient rehab hospitals. Often you get referred to these from an acute care stay. You end up in one of my hospitals and you need some intensive rehab. But you can be referred to this from home. Your provider can refer you to this from home, or maybe you went home after a hospital stay and you're just not doing as great as you think you can, or your loved one's not doing as well. An inpatient stay at an acute rehab hospital is a very intensive therapy stay. Generally, your patient, or you or yourself if you're the patient, you'll get therapy 5 days a week, up to 3 hours a day. So it's pretty intensive. But it's meant to be a very short, intense stay. Get you back on your feet as quickly as possible, get you home with some of those home health services. It is usually, again, referred to from a hospital, but your doctor can refer you from home. You can call. You can pick up the phone and call one of these acute care facilities and say, hey, I had a fall and I broke my hip, or anything that you think gives that intensive care. Often covered by Medicare, most of the time. Private insurances, they have to get an authorization from your private insurance. And that includes your managed Medicare programs. So, unfortunately, some of our managed Medicares are not as likely to approve that level of care, but it is a level of care that's definitely available. And in the Northern Virginia market, we have Encompass in Aldi, we have Mount Vernon Rehab, we have Encompass in Fredericksburg, there's an Encompass in Charlottesville, and there's a couple in the DC area. Skilled nursing facility care. This went through a change during COVID, but the requirement has just been reinstated. So the requirement to go to a skilled nursing facility under Medicare or most private insurances is that you've had a 3-night inpatient hospital stay within the last 30 days. And I clarify the word inpatient stay because Medicare changed a bunch of rules about 3 years ago that make it a little more difficult for hospitals and for patients, unfortunately. So it's always important to, if you get admitted to a hospital, to pay attention to some of that paperwork they give you about your status. This is skilled nursing facility care. It's a 24-hour day, so it's an inpatient level of care. Most often in a nursing facility or a nursing home. Okay, but most of the nursing facilities in our area have both skilled care and long-term care. So you're looking really at the skilled services here. You can get things like wound care, IV therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, maybe a medical social worker, assessments and treatment by the nurses. And it's something that, is a level of care that maybe is a little too intense for home. A lot of people get this magic number in their head and they say, I have 100 days. Medicare gives me 100 days. Fine. The one thing in Medicare, that's the maximum benefit is 100 days. Most patients don't need 100 days to get better. Most patients can get better in 20 to 35 days and go on, or less. Sometimes less. And that's even better, right? Get that home health care. Get that the next level of step down. The one thing that skilled facilities are very good at is helping you transition to the next level of care. So this is definitely care that is directed by a physician. It is less intense than a rehab, than a hospital level of care. So you're still going to get that therapy. You're still going to get physical therapy or occupational therapy or speech therapy, but not that 3 hours a day that's going to probably do you if you're not quite ready there. But it's a great thing, great service, covered under Medicare Part A and most private insurances. Again, it's just a matter of getting that authorization. You have to submit everything to that insurance company. Long-term care facilities, or NF, they call it, nursing facility level of care. Nursing facility level of care is more those folks that need that long-term placement. They need the placement where I've done everything I could possibly do to take care of mom or dad or brother or sister or aunt or uncle, and I just can't do it anymore. Their level of care is beyond what can be safely cared for in the home. And a lot of people have a stigma about that. Oh, I promised mom I'd never put her in a nursing home. But you have to be realistic about what is your own capabilities too. What is your ability to safely care for that loved one? The thing that I could tell, and I've told many, many, many folks over the years, and trust me, I've, like I said, over 30 years in this business, is that when you've given the best you can, it's okay to let somebody else give the care that that loved one needs. It's a hard decision. It's a very hard decision. But caregivers, you have to take care of yourselves too. That's the hardest part sometimes, is realizing that you have to take care of yourself too. And it's really important. My last two slides, first one's about palliative care services. So palliative care services are available for patients that have a chronic illness that you may still be treating, getting curative treatment for, but has some extra support. Palliative care services are for advanced or chronic illnesses. So anybody that has that, and the goal of that care is relieving that symptom, managing those symptoms, keeping those symptoms at bay. And again, this is, maybe you've got end-stage lung disease. And, you're still getting active treatment, but your symptoms are getting a little harder to manage. Palliative services is a great option. And for this type of service, this is an illness that it can be curable, chronic, or limiting. So it doesn't just give you that end-stage issue or a life-limiting issue. So you could have really bad heart disease, but you're still working. You're still, going to the physician. But you need a little extra support. Palliative services is a great option. Usually covered by Medicare, Medicaid, and most private insurances. And last in my presentation is hospice services. First myth to dispel, hospice is not only for cancer patients. Hospice used to always, you only go on hospice if you have cancer. Okay, not true. Hospice is for any life-threatening illness. Generally an illness that's reached an end stage, and the curative isn't going to be there anymore. You're now into that level of care where you're focusing on, give me the best life I can have with whatever time I have left. So the doctors have said, hey, the chemo didn't work, or the steroids didn't work, or the medication we gave you for your heart disease didn't work. So you're in a life-limiting illness. You're at that point in your care where your provider has said to you, we've given you all our bags and our tricks in the bag. Something like that. You don't know what I mean. We've used all our tricks up, and we don't have anything left. Is it a hard decision? Yeah, it's a very hard decision. But they have such a great team. They have nurses, they have doctors, they have social workers, they have chaplains. They have all these wonderful support folks that are out there to help you through this journey. They provide medications that are related to the disease process. They provide equipment, hospital beds, oxygen. I knew all this stuff as a nurse, but until you live it as a caregiver too, it's a whole different way of looking at things. But it's an awesome, awesome resource that's available. It's appropriate for any advanced disease or condition that has a limited life expectancy. Covered by pretty much every insurance provider out there, Medicare, Medicaid. And I don't honestly think I've run into a private insurance plan unless maybe it was on the, one of the healthcare plans. And I'm not aware of that. But we have some amazing hospice agencies in this area, certainly a resource that's worth looking into if you're in that position. I hope this has given you guys a little glimpse of what else is available inside and outside the home. And if you'd like a copy of the slides, we have that for you. Thank you all and have a great day.
We do have a few minutes for Q&A at the end here. If anyone has a question for either of our presenters, I believe we have someone from Third Eye at the back. Feel free to come to the front. Any questions for anybody?
Where are you located?
Who are you washing that off?
UVA Health, we are Prince William Medical Center, Haymarket Medical Center, and Culpeper Medical Center, as well as the main hospital and the insurance.
Okay, so you said Prince William County?
Prince William Medical Center is in Manassas.
Don't let the name fool you, they are in fact located in Prince William County as well.
We are, we're just on the other end. But we do share some resources sometimes with Centera. If somebody's machines are down or things like that. If you live mid-county, depending on what's going on, they may bring you to Prince William instead of Centera, or Centera may be really busy on bypass, so they send you to us. So,
Do you work with the VA?
we do work with the VA. We accept all insurance.
That was, if anyone couldn't hear, that was a question about whether or not UVA Health works with the VA. The answer was they do. Any other questions? All right, good afternoon, everyone. The diehards that stuck it out for all 4 sessions, well done. And your reward is no doubt the best session. So, welcome to session number 4. This is on transportation. You're going to be getting 2 presenters for this session are Jerry Nowinski, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, with Bluebird Transportation, and Perrin Powerstrand, the Director of Planning and Service Delivery at OmniRide. He'll also be doing a presentation after that. For those folks who don't know, because this is maybe your first session, the session really goes in kind of 3 segments. Each presenter has up to 15 minutes, and then at the end we'll do kind of a unified Q&A. 2 presenters are gracious enough to stick around. And then we'll just do a wrap up, and that's it. So without further ado, it's over to Ms. Winston. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good to see everybody today. My name is Jerry Nowinski, and I am a member of the Bluebird Travel Advisory Committee. And I want to thank all of you for coming and listening to me. How many of you have been on a Bluebird trip before? Ah, good, very good. So I got talking to some people who know all about it already. Anyway, since the weather is so nice, I know that a lot of you want to get out, have some fun, and of course, leave the driving to us, and that's the best thing, because you don't have to drive. Our Bluebird tours are contracted with Quality Tours, and what they do is they provide the bus transportation, they make up all of the trips, and they take your reservations. So before, about 20 years ago, there was just one bus that the county had, which was a blue one, and that's how we got our name, Bluebirds. But of course, it kept breaking down, and people kept canceling out, so the county finally decided, well, let's go ahead and contract with a tour company. And so we've been with Quality now for quite a while. Our schedules come out 3 times a year, and right now we are into our summer schedule, and a lot of you have picked this up. In fact, so many that I don't have any more copies left, wish I did. And you can get this copy also if you go to the website, pwcgov.org. You can also have it there. The schedules, like I said, come out 3 times a year, and we send them over to the libraries, we send them over to the senior centers, and we also send them to many of the over 55 communities. But they do go very quickly, so it's sometimes hard to get one unless you go online. Again, we have our summer schedule. We have a lot of trips right now open for July and for August and for September. Our trips sometimes overlap, so in the next schedule you may see some of those trips for September in the next schedule, okay? Each trip has its own price, okay? So it's not just one price. It depends on where we're going, and it depends on what's included. We do many trips within the Washington area. We go to the Kennedy Center, we go to the Ford Theater. We did have a boat cruise during the cherry blossom time that a lot of people had gone on. We also go to any of the dinner theaters, Fredericksburg, we have some in Maryland, we have some in Pennsylvania. So we have quite a few dinner theaters that we do go to. We do also go to the museums here in DC. We've been to the African American Museum, we've been to the Bible Museum, the Holocaust Museum, and we repeat a lot of those sometimes because a lot of people may not have been able to make the first one. We also have overnight trips, and our overnight trips go to a variety of places. We go to Myrtle Beach, let's see, we've been to Florida, we just had one that went to Savannah, Georgia, and Wilmington. We had one not too long ago that went to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. We have a big one coming up August 8th through the 13th, and it's called Mountain Mama, Here We Come. It's going to Knoxville, and it's going to Memphis, and let's see, where else? Chattanooga, we're stopping in Graceland. So if you're interested in that nice big trip, that's also available in August. To make a reservation, the easiest thing to do is to take this phone number that you see, 703-339-0333, which is the quality number, and they will take your reservations. So if you call, just say, I'd like to make a Bluebird reservation. Let's see, what else I'm going to tell you here. Please sign up as soon as you can if you see a trip that you're very interested in, because the trips go very, very fast, okay? However, sometimes we might have a cancellation. A cancellation will come usually with a play, maybe sometimes at the Kennedy Center, because since the pandemic, they have wanted their money like the next day. You know, they used to wait a long time. So sometimes we have to cancel out. We usually want 20 people for a day trip and 30 for overnight, but lately we've been going with less, and this is because Lillian, who's in charge of the company, loves seniors, and she hates to cancel you. So many times she lets us go with 15 for a day trip, and maybe for an overnight, like 24, 25. So she does love the program, and she hates to see a trip get canceled. Let's see, what else? If you say, well, I really don't have anybody to go with, don't worry about that. I go alone on many trips. My husband goes golfing. I go on the Bluebird trips. If you're by yourself, you won't be by yourself on the trip. We have everybody sit together, we tour together, so please don't think that because you're the only person, you know, you're by yourself. You won't be, not even on the bus. Everybody talks to everybody. If you have some accommodations that need to be made, for example, you know, you have a wheelchair or you have a walker, just let somebody know when you make your reservation. They have different buses. They have buses for wheelchairs. They have buses for different accommodations. We can put the walker underneath the bus, like we put suitcases. So just let them know when you sign up for a trip if you do need an accommodation. We also have, besides our trips, we do have a luncheon. We have socials every 4 months, 3 times a year. Sometimes we have it in Woodbridge, and sometimes we have it in Manassas. And again, it's another good place to meet some new people, and we usually have somebody come from quality to tell us how the trips are going. We also have board meetings, and this is open to the public, all the Bluebirds, all your friends. It's usually on one Friday every 4 months. It's in the Bluebird schedule, 10 a.m. in the morning, have it in the boardroom, and you can bring your suggestions, your recommendations, whatever you want to say. And again, we have somebody from quality, we have all the board members there, and we also have Sarah Henry, and she's in charge of the whole area agency on aging, okay? Let me see if I have anything else. I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything. I will be here, I'll stay to answer any of your questions, but I thank you very much, and I hope I can see you on a trip real soon. Thank you.
Yeah, Jerry will be here. Oh, do you, very quickly, or do you, we have to go through that, yeah, very quick, guys.
Oh, okay.
So your schedule is quarterly, is that what you said?
Yes, yes, we come out, we used to have 4, but now we're down to 3. So many times, some of the trips from one go into the next one. And always look at the new one, because sometimes when we look at the new one, we have to make some time changes. And we did that on one trip, and we had one person that showed up really early and thought we had left. So always go with the most current trip. If you go online, you'll see the summer schedule, and that's the one you want to take right now. Okay?
Next up is Karen Palestrand from OmniRide. So come down, Karen.
Hopefully we're not having the same technical problem that somehow we were having earlier. Maybe you better say next slide.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Next slide.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Karen Palestrand, Director of Planning and Service Delivery. My title didn't sing it for a second. Planning and Service Delivery at OmniRide. And I'm going to give a brief overview of what the type of services that we offer and what the future looks like for us. Next slide, please. We offer a variety of services. We have our commuter bus network that operates from various points of Prince William County: Woodbridge, Dale City, Lake Ridge, Montclair on the eastern side of the county, Gainesville, Manassas, and Haymarket on the western side of the county. And their destinations are primarily in downtown Washington, Pentagon, and then we also have some service into the Roslyn-Ballston corridor. The fare on those routes are $6.90, and they operate your traditional peak times. They go in towards those areas in the morning, in your primary peak times, and in the afternoon they start making their way back in the early midday, all the way through 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. We also have 2 bus routes that serve metro stations. They're called our Metro Express services. We have a route that runs from Woodbridge to the Franconia Springfield station on the Blue Line, and another route that operates through Manassas and goes to Tyson's on the Silver Line. The Manassas route runs Monday through Friday, all day in both directions, and our Metro Express route runs 7 days a week in both directions, primarily from about 5 a.m. to about 11 p.m. Our local bus service, we have services on both the eastern side and the western side of the county. And the eastern side, those run 7 days a week also. And they serve Dumfries, Dale City, Lake Ridge, Woodbridge. We try to serve as much of the area as we can. We have a lot of service along the Route 1 corridor, Old Bridge Road, Dale Boulevard. We serve Centara Hospital, Potomac Mills. We have a couple routes that go there. So we try to hit all the major destinations to bring people to for jobs, for shopping, for medical. And then we also have a paratransit service that operates right now in the Manassas Park, and western Prince William County area. We are looking at potentially expanding that to the eastern side next year. We have a proposal to restructure all of our eastern services, and along with that would be a paratransit system that would complement that service. Right now on the eastern side we have a fixed route deviation where the buses go with 3/4 of a mile off route and then they go back to the regular route. But this would be a completely separate service, so the buses would stay on their main route, and then the paratransit service would complement it, going the 3/4 of a mile. We also have a new service called microtransit, which is similar to an Uber and a Lyft system, except we operate it as OmniRide. This isn't getting into a stranger's car and going to your destination. This is getting into an OmniRide branded vehicle with an OmniRide operator that will pick you up at the nearest corner to where your location is and take you to, either, sometimes they'll take you directly to where it is depending on where your destination is, or to the nearest corner. But using our app, it's an OmniRide mobility app. You can book your trips directly through it. It'll give you the walking directions to get to the van to take you to your destination. You can also call our customer service line or book it online. We don't just have it where you just use the app. You can call in to customer service and they'll help book your trip as well. And the beauty of this is it's flexible and it's on demand. Unlike a bus that runs on a fixed schedule every 30 minutes, every 60 minutes, the van will come based on the availability. So if it's close by, you may get it in as little as 15 minutes. So that's the whole goal, is to move people around as quickly as possible in a more flexible way that can penetrate into the neighborhoods better than a big bus can. Next slide, please. This is our, our commuter bus service. This is just summarizing where our commuter routes run. As I mentioned, to Dale City, Lake Ridge, Montclair, Gainesville, Manassas, and Haymarket, and the various destinations that we serve in downtown Washington, Navy Yard, and Pentagon. Next slide. Our Eastern local service is serve the various areas that I mentioned before in Dumfries, Route 1 corridor, the Woodbridge, Lake Ridge area, Dale City, and then the Metro Express that runs from Woodbridge to Franconia Springfield. Next slide. And our western side, we have 3 bus routes out there. We have the 65 that splits into 2 routes. We have the 65B, which runs between our hub in downtown Manassas near the Prince William Courthouse and the Social Security Building, up through the Sudley Road corridor. It goes to Manassas Mall and into the Ballsford commuter lot. And then we have the 65N that runs along the same corridor, except that one goes to the Nova Manassas campus. And then we have the 67, that serves Manassas and Manassas Park, Oaks of Wellington, Park Place. It also serves the Liberia Avenue corridor where there's a Walmart, lots of shopping in there, and some residential as well. And then we have our East-West Express that connects the two areas. So it connects the services on the western side with the services on the eastern side. And the Manassas and the East-West Express, those run Mondays through Fridays, although we have a proposal on the table that also brings to the board in July to run those on Saturdays as well. So if that goes into place, if you live on the eastern side, you can use our eastern local routes to the transit center in Woodbridge and then connect to the East-West Express, and then you can make your way out to Manassas too. So that'll be a really great enhancement to at least have that 6 days a week available. And then we have our Route 60 from Manassas to Tyson's. Next slide. This is a summary of our paratransit service called OmniRide Access. This runs in the Manassas Park area. This has eligibility requirements. You do have to get certified by a medical professional and submitted to a company called ADA Ride, which will go through your application, and then based on that eligibility, you would then be approved to use the service based on the zone that's available for it. Just like our local bus and Metro Express services, this is free. Right now we have 0 fare on our local services, 0 fare on Metro Express, 0 fare on paratransit, and also 0 fare on our microtransit service. Next slide. This is what the zone looks like in the Manassas area. It's quite expansive because it follows the path of our routes. So the boundaries go 3/4 of a mile from where all our routes are. That's why it's a bigger area than what the fixed route can do. And this goes into more of the neighborhood areas, more to where the doctors are. And OmniRide Access is a curb-to-curb service. Unlike microtransit, which would be at the nearest corner, this service will come right to the door or the curb of where you live. So it limits the amount of walking or mobility that you need to get to it, and the operator will be there to help you on the vehicle and then take you on your way to your destination. Next slide. Our OmniRide Connect service, which started in the Manassas Park, Manassas area in December of 2022. It's the blue shaded area on the system map here. It encompasses a wide area in the Manassas and Manassas Park area. We used to have a fixed route that ran into part of the area that the Connect operates, but it was low productivity just based on the landscape of the area. It was a lot of single family houses. It didn't generate a lot of ridership, but we know that it needs transit, and this offered us a flexible way to still provide that much needed access to either traveling within the zone or connect people to our bus route so that at least they could take a bus from there to wherever their final destination is. And we keep monitoring it, and we look for ways to either enhance the zone, create a new zone. It's much easier to do that than your traditional fixed route bus. That one you have to reprint schedules, you have to do public hearings, you have to do a lot of things to make sure that you're doing it right before you just change a bus route. But with this, it's so much more flexible to be able to change the zone on a dime pretty much. If we see that a new development's going up just outside the zone and it makes sense, we can just move the zone and then all of a sudden we can have service there. The software we use is called RideCo. It's very user-friendly. You just have to set up your user profile, and then you can start booking your trips based on the zone that you're in. And if you do have any troubles, our customer service associates will help you with booking the trip, and then there's an online version too. If either you don't have a smartphone or don't want to use it, there's several different ways to make sure you can book your ride. Next slide, please. And so we're continuing this growth. On the eastern side, we just started a new service that's in the blue zone here in the Dumfries Triangle Quantico area. And this is an opportunity to enhance the service on the eastern side. Whereas on the western side, we used it to replace a bus service. This is complementing it. So the bus service is still running as we have it, but now we're offering this other flexible service on top of it. And we've expanded where this can go versus our bus. This zone goes all the way down 234 to the Fortuna Shopping Center where the Target and Shoppers is. We don't have fixed route service right now, so this allows us to serve new areas that we don't have bus service and test it to see if it does warrant fixed route service in the future. And that's the great thing about this. It could switch, just like we went from a fixed route bus route to this, we could easily go from this to a fixed route. So it allows you some opportunities to see what the demand is and then move the zones around to different areas. We're presently looking at other areas in the eastern part of the county where this could work. Are there areas where we have holes in our service area that this could potentially be expanded to? So we're very excited about starting these services up and offering something more than just your traditional bus route. We want to be mobility for all, in all sorts of different ways, and this is allowing us to test these different things out. Next slide. The other unique factor with this OmniRide Connect on the eastern side is we're partnering with Yellow Cab to help us operate the service. So it's an opportunity to have even more service available because it isn't just reliant on us operating it ourselves. It's still an OmniRide branded service, but Yellow Cab, who we have a wonderful partnership with, is helping us run the service too. So they can run into areas that we can't. For example, the Marine base in Quantico, it's difficult to get on there because of the credentials that you need to do that. Yellow Cab, their operators already have that, so we're able to leverage that partnership for them to get into Quantico, bring the residents out that live in the town out to any place in that zone or to connect to the fixed route that's available as well. Next slide. Our Wheels to Wellness program is a very unique program that we've had for many years. The purpose of it is to bring people specifically to either medical appointments, pharmacies, anything else that could help that person get what they need, the resources that they need. It isn't the same as it doesn't take you to Walmart, for example, or it doesn't take you to the grocery store, but it takes you to that critical medical need that you have that you may not be able to have access to. Next slide. There are eligibility requirements for this as well. It's primarily designed for people that are 80 years or older or have disabled or a mobility device and have income restrictions. So this gives that access to folks so you don't have to take an expensive taxi ride to be able to get to your medical appointment. And even though you have to be a Prince William County resident or live in the city of Manassas or Manassas Park, your destination doesn't have to be in Prince William County. You do have a copay to use it, but if your doctor is in the next county over, they'll take you there. So this is to be able to expand and get you to the critical needs that you have versus having to take an expensive taxi or 4 buses or anything that's really complicated to get there. It's to get you there as easy as possible. Next slide. This is our Eastern Local restructure that I was mentioning at the beginning. We're waiting for the board to approve this as well in July. We've had a huge amount of public outreach. We had several events at our transit center. We had listening sessions here at the Ferlazzo building and at several libraries in the area. And also met our passengers at many of our busy bus stops to get feedback into what we can do to run our bus service better, serve areas that we're not serving, make it more efficient to operate. And this map is a summary of what we're looking at. One of the new routes that we're looking at is in line with the microtransit service that we have to the Fortuna Shopping Center. This bus route would actually run along 234 down the waterway and connect the shopping center, the high school that's there and the residential there, and connect directly into Dumfries. We also have another new route being proposed along Minnieville Road that connects Lakeridge directly down to the Potomac Mills area and the Nova Woodbridge campus. And then another group of retooling of our services to make them quicker. Right now we have some long loops and some other things that are a little inconsistent with it. So we're trying to straighten everything out and clean it up and see what we do. Oftentimes we launch new services and there's always some tweaking that needs to be made. But this is the first time in the history of OmniRide, which was OmniLink at the time, the local service, to really start over again and see what we can do. Keep what's running well, because we don't want to just take a route that's successful and just get rid of it. We want to enhance it. So we're looking at new areas that we can start to connect in with the Dale cities and the Dumfries that already do really well to make sure that you have more access. Finding quicker ways to get people to where they need to go. new services along Prince William Parkway between Route 1 and Potomac Mills, to then, instead of having to ride all the way around through Woodbridge, finding quicker ways to get people to where their destinations are. Next slide. We're also going to go to a route numbering system, much like we did in Manassas Park. In Manassas, where we had routes that started in the 60s, we're looking at putting numbers to all of our routes here too, because it's just much easier to communicate, to take the 51 bus, rather than the Dumfries local to Fuller Heights. It's just a mouthful. They have to say all the words that our routes do. Now we're trying to make it simpler and put some logic behind it, so you know what area you're in based on the route number of the buses. We chose the 60s on the western side to signify I-66. That's the I-66 corridor. We chose bus routes with 5s and 9s in the eastern side because of the 95 corridor. Anything to the left or to the west of 95 would begin with a 9. Anything that begins to the east or the right of 95 would begin with a 5. Try to put a little bit of logic to it so at least you kind of know the area that you're in and make it easier. It's also easier when you have somebody where English isn't their first language. It's much easier to say a number versus trying to say all of the words that we have on our bus routes. Next slide. We're creating also new hubs for our bus routes. Because we're splitting the routes up and making them shorter, we're having new transfer connection points that we're proposing. Right now, the main hub in the area is the transit center, which is in the middle of nowhere, but that was because that was a convenient place to put it, because that's where our facility is, that's where we had the land and the space to be able to put all those buses in. But here we're looking at many different areas where you can take the routes and connect to it, so you don't have to always just come to the transit center. The hubs are located at places that you actually go to, the Woodbridge VRE station, Chin Center, Nova, Tackett's Mill Shopping Center, and then also Galveston Court is right off of Hoadley Road and Prince William Parkway where the Harris Teeter is. There's a big shopping center there, so we wanted to have a hub there. So 2 different routes can bring people to go grocery shopping, to go to work. Really trying to find areas where people go to so it's a logical destination, a logical hub. It's safe, it's well lit, and it's convenient for people to be able to get in and out of there. Next slide. This is what our proposed paratransit and microtransit area would look like if the restructure goes in place. It encompasses quite a large area of eastern Prince William County. The blue is what the paratransit area would look like. And we made sure that there weren't any holes in it, because there's certain parts of the routes that you would have a gap if you went 3/4 of a mile from one route and 3/4 of a mile from another. We didn't want to have that space in there, so we just closed in any gap we have, so you have one continuous service area for the paratransit. And then the reddish purple is the microtransit that we have. So that's what the new routes would look like with the paratransit area and the microtransit, just to show all the different types of service options that we would have on the eastern side. If everything goes to plan and we get approved to do this, it would launch early next year, probably March or so. It takes us that long to then be able to do all the outreach that would be necessary now to educate everybody of all the changes. So just like we were out and about doing a lot of outreaches to get feedback, now we're going to be out and about making sure people understand the service and trying to get new riders, trying to make sure our existing riders are comfortable, and we want this to go as smoothly as we can and make sure that people are comfortable using our service. Next slide. And that's it for us. That's my name, Karen Palestran at the top. That's my email address, and then Joe Stainsby, I put his email at the bottom as well. So thank you for your time.
All right, so thank you very much, Karen. Perfectly on time. So we do have some time for Q&A if you would like. If there are any questions for either of our presenters in the room for this session. Yes, sir.
On the micro transit. So I couldn't quite see how far that went out and back and forth. So is there a specific pickup area or?
Yeah, I'm just going to re-speak your question into the microphone for the benefit of the recording. This is a question about where the microtransit zone is going to be. Maybe you can talk and I'll go back to that. Sure.
Yep, so the new Eastern Microtransit, so the furthest west it goes right now is to the Fortuna Shopping Center. That's just past the Lidl where the Target is along 234. And then on the eastern, when you go further east, it goes as far north as the Walmart at River Heritage. And then on the eastern side, so down Wayside and in those neighborhoods in the Port Potomac area, or yeah, that's Southbridge. It's in the Southbridge area, so it serves the area to the east, and then all the way down to the south as far into the town of Quantico, for the Heights Road, and into the Triangle neighborhood.
So it'll pick a person up wherever they are and take them to any of those places in that area?
Yes, as long as you stay, it'll take you from one place to that zone to another place within that zone. It stays within the area that's shaded for it. And if someone wants to then connect to a bus route that's in that zone, it'll take them to that bus route so they can then continue outside the zone to another area.
And there's no cost for that? So.
Right, that's free.
Thank you.
Sure.
I would encourage anyone who has any further deep interest in the microtransit, we've done a lot of public outreach on that recorded, that is available on our website for you to peruse at your leisure. Any further questions? For either for Perrin or Jim? All right, well, not hearing any, then we can actually go ahead and wrap up for the day. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to come out. Without you guys coming to attend these things, we're just crazy people in a room talking to nobody. So thank you for actually making the inaugural Senior Summit here a thing that happened. So thank you to you all. This is something that we would like to potentially do again. So if you felt as though the sessions today were useful and you thought maybe there's things that can improve, I'm sure we probably still have staff knocking around in the lobby outside, so please feel free to give your comments to them. I wish you all a very happy and wonderful, safe, potentially long weekend, Juneteenth on the 19th, on Monday. And so I can bring it to a close right there. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.